links. There's more than one way to do it. Uh, I I mean, I found I couldn't do mine either, but I found another way to do it. I go to File Explorer and I put in the first couple letters of that file and it comes right up. And then I send it to Dropbox from File Explorer.
Oh, you sent it to him from File Explorer. Okay.
I can walk you through it, you know.
Oh, that's okay. Don't, we're online on live stream right now. So
That's the reason I put CCC in front of every one of my files. And everything I ever do, I put CCC, but it's only because that makes it easy for me to bring it up in File Explorer, and from there I send it to Dropbox.
so you send it to Dropbox,
Yeah, I send it to Dropbox from File Explorer.
but it's in Dropbox already.
Uh, no, it's
Mine is in my Dropbox already, so that's where my files
in
are.
my recorder, which is Wave. The original thing from India. Do you have that or no?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't have that. I see.
No, that they don't support that anymore. And when I got a new computer, it didn't work for me. So,
Okay, okay, all right. Yeah, mine is still in the recorder, and
okay.
I sent it from the recorder to Dropbox.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, mine records right direct to the Dropbox. So, okay. So, um, I guess, Iris, will you please pray us in?
Yes, I will pray us in. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Amen.
Said amen, amen, amen. Thank you, Iris.
Amen.
All right. So thank you. We're in chapter 4, The Illusions of the Ego, section 2, The Ego and False Autonomy, and paragraph 8. So who would like to read paragraph 8? All right, Iris, please go ahead.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. So, paragraph 8. The ego believes it is completely on its own, which is merely another way of describing how it thinks it originated. This is such a fearful state that it can only turn to other egos and try to unite with them in a feeble attempt at identification or attack them in an equally feeble show of strength. It is not free, however, to open the premise to question because the premise is its foundation. The ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own. The ego's ceaseless attempts to gain the spirit's acknowledgement and thus establish its own existence are useless. Spirit, in its knowledge, is unaware of the ego. It does not attack. It does not attack it. it does not attack it. It merely cannot conceive of it at all. While the ego is equally unaware of spirit, it does perceive itself as being rejected by something greater than itself. This is why self-esteem in ego terms must be delusional. The creations of God do not create myths, although the creations of God do not create myths, although creative effort can be turned to mythology. It can do so, however, only under one condition. What it makes is then no longer creative. Myths are entirely perceptual and so ambiguous in form and characteristically good and evil in nature that the most benevolent of them is not without fearful connotation. So this is a really interesting paragraph, actually. So I think what I might do is just, because it's like very, very long, I might just like go through it, and I related to a lot of it. So it says, the ego believes it is completely on its own, which is merely another way of describing how it thinks it originated. This is such a fearful state that it can only turn to other egos and try to unite with them in a feeble attempt at identification, or attack them in an equally feeble show of strength. So this is, I mean, it is like the basis of the human race, you know? It's like everywhere, like, honestly, it's in all our structures, the way we do things, it's just everywhere. Like, I mean, it's just like just the confusion of not even confusion. It's like really like in the Eastern teachings, it would say like we don't know what we are, and we think we are like this um, alone. We think we're a human body, body mind. We think we are our identity. I mean, I'm really, it's just amazing because like I just had this idea that not idea, but I just had this I would say like maybe idea or clarity maybe, like it's like when we pass away, when we pass away, like I was wondering like what happens like when we pass away, like I mean what happens when Iris dies, for example, you know, like I was just always think about that recently, like what exactly does happen, like I mean no wonder there is like such a ton of confusion. And I was thinking that not thinking, but I mean really like when the course tells us that we are not our bodies or minds or thoughts or any of that. And so this whole like iris thing is a complete like it's it's kind of a bit like when it says the illusion, it means that it's not permanent. Like the thoughts of iris, the identity of iris, the body of iris, and then everything that comes from this I of the small self, like all the relationships of Iris are like, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter how important Iris thinks those relationships are. It doesn't mean anything because it's like, it's coming from the view that Iris is a person. and that, this idea that, oh, I'll be alone without my family, without my family, I'll be alone. Like, this is not true, because Iris is like just a built concept when the one self is dreaming up this concept called Iris, and all of Iris's relationships are based on this concept of like the small self. So like I don't think there's gonna be like, when Iris dies, there's not gonna be like Iris in spirit, not like that. It's just gonna be I am, like the feeling of am, like the feeling of am without all the stuff added onto it, like, and like, so I that makes sense to me, and so this paragraph reminds me of that, and it says like, this is such a fearful state that it can only turn to other egos and try to unite with them, which I've done many times, in a feeble attempt at identification, or attack them in an equally feeble show of strength. So it's like just the idea that basically like it really comes down to like, what am I? What do I think I am? Like, and then it is not free, however, to open the premise to question, because the premise is its own foundation. The ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own, and stuff like that. And then, but that was the part that I've been thinking about. And I'll hand over to Lynn.
No, thank you, Iris. Yeah. Wow. What you just said just brought me to what we just read in Absence from Felicity. And I'm just going to bring that up. And Dove had asked me um, to read this. So this is from Absence from Felicity, and it really goes with what you just were asking about. What happens to the ire of Iris when I die? Okay, so let's see. So a very specific message came on October 2nd, 1976. This is after the course had been published. Because of its special nature, I present it out of its proper chronological sequence. Helen and I, this is Ken Wapnick, were sitting on her couch, and she asked me if I believed in the physical resurrection of Jesus. I replied, not really, for if the body were not real and alive, how could it then resurrect? Besides, the definition of the resurrection basically given in the course is that of the awakening from the dream of death, a process that occurs in the mind, not the body, since it is the mind alone that sleeps. However, I went on, it was certainly possible that Jesus' followers would have experienced this awakening as a physical event, given the level of their understanding confusing form for content. I then suggested to Helen that she ask the boss himself, since who better than Jesus could respond to her question? The following answer then came. And I have this because, like I said, it was sent out, and this was what Carol Howe read to us um, at the Easter program. So, oops, no, it says it's not working, but will it? Will you work for me? We'll just go ahead and read it from the book. I put it out. I put it like in a different document, so as I could read it better. But this is what Jesus said. Let me make this bigger text. Where's that thing? Okay. There we go. He says, the body disappeared because I had no illusion about it. My body disappeared because I had no illusion about it. The last one had gone, the last illusion. It was laid in the tomb because there was nothing left to bury. It did not disintegrate because the unreal cannot die. It merely becomes what it always was, and that is what rolling the stone away means. The body disappears and no longer hides what lies beyond. It merely ceases to interfere with vision. To roll the stone away is to see beyond the tomb, beyond death, and to understand the body's nothingness. What is understood as nothing must disappear. I did assume, okay, so here he's saying the body disappeared. I no longer had a body. There was no illusion here. He still, as the person of Jesus, though, just as you still the person of Iris, who would still be existing apparently after this, he still assumed a human form. I did assume a human form with human attributes afterwards to speak to those who were to prove the body's worthlessness to the world. This has been much understood. I came to tell them that death is an illusion, and the mind that made the body can make another, since form itself is an illusion. And that's what he did. He just made a new body and came back. He didn't have to resurrect the old dead body because it was gone. Because at not one instant does the body exist. The Course tells us that at not one instant does the body exist. They did not understand, but now I talk to you and give you the same message. The death of an illusion means nothing. It disappears when you awaken and decide to dream no more. And you still do have the power to make this decision, as I did. So it disappears when we awaken and decide no more dreaming. God holds out his hand to his son to help him rise and return to him. I can help because the world is illusion and I have overcome the world. Look past the tomb, the body, the illusion. Have faith in nothing but the spirit and guidance God gives you. He could not have created the body because it is a limit. He must have created the spirit because it is immortal. Can those who are created like him be limited? The body is the symbol of the world. Leave it behind. It cannot enter heaven, but I can take you there anytime you choose. Together we can watch the world disappear and its symbols vanish as it does so. And then I cannot speak of that. A body cannot stay without illusions, and the last one to be overcome is death. This is the message of the crucifixion. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. This is the message of the resurrection. Illusions are illusions. Truth is true. Illusions vanish. Only truth remains. These lessons needed to be taught but once. For when the stone of death is rolled away, what can be seen except an empty tomb? And that is what you see who follow me into the sunlight and away from death, past all illusions, on to heaven's gate, where God will come himself to take you home. So I don't know what y'all think about that. Like I said, we just read it this morning in Absence from Felicity. And it just makes so much perfect sense to me. What you were asking, what happens to Iris? Where is Iris? Well, Iris is not in the illusion, but if Iris still believes in death and is still dreaming, then Iris may take up another body and go live another life. I don't know. But Iris is still there. You're still here. not the ego of Iris, but the being of who you are, the Christ being that is the name of Iris Christ, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's it. Like Lynn, that makes perfect sense. Like, cause like you know, like when we are quiet, like when we just, I mean, we don't have to do much. Like just when we are quiet, and like when we are like looking at or when we are being awareness, like when we're just being, and like it gets quiet, like there are no thoughts. And when it says body, to me, like this means like the mind, like the voice in the head, the noise, the thought, then the physical body. And then really when it says body, I was thinking about the word identity with a small I. And when we can do that, like when we practice that, like when I'm practicing that, I'm noticing that it's getting quiet, like I'm finding a bit of peace. And I like it's like just like that. Like so the iris is completely made up. It is because it's like a hypnosis almost of like the thing that was sleeping. And like with, oh, that's iris and that's where it comes from, this is the good and the bad moral code, this is like the religion, this is you know, this uh you know, whatever, like it's a massive story, like made up. And then but so like it makes sense because exactly what you were reading there, Lynn, like it's kind of like uh just kind of noticing like it doesn't, nothing happens, just the body will drop and it doesn't matter. Like, and but then there's gonna be that or consciousness or whatever is aware, like, or the Christ, Iris. And like uh and but that's here, like it's here, it's always been here, and it just gets covered up. Like it just gets covered up with, like for example, when I'm at work, I really believe I'm me. I really believe like I'm Irish, like it doesn't even cross my mind I'm the Christ, you know, like. And then when I'm quiet, then it's like it's kind of like that, you know. And but it's just like a vague quote type of thing, like because I've always been confused and I hear about all kinds of stuff and stories, and I think I don't know whether it's kind of all entertainment, you know, because the truth is that we are what we are already here right now, and nothing is going to happen. Like when, I mean, there's going to be no change, nothing's going to be changed, except we're just not going to have like this identity with a small I. Maybe I don't. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, it makes sense because when we practice that awareness, we can see like, oh, what is, what am I without all this other stuff? Like that. What am I? Because uh, uh, for example, like I'll say this last thing and then I'll hand over back to Lynn. Like, for example, like if Iris had been kind of born and raised in like, just say for example, like Japan or China, it would be completely different. Like whatever was built, ideas, the thinking, the habits, the family, the everything would be like the identity would be different, but Iris is still the same. Like the arm is still the same. But so, and I would not be surprised if we like, in places it says when we come back or whatever. Like I'm not surprised because like the way he just made a new body and he came back, like quote. And uh I mean, because the body is a creation, like it's just kind of uh it doesn't really matter. I'm sure that we'd create a new body. I mean, I don't know. Like but like just coming back to like the simple stuff, like that is a massive relief, I must say. Like it's a massive relief. Like and uh uh yeah, and I'll hand back to Lynn.
Yeah, thank you so much, Iris. This is something that we really, honestly, contemplating this and thinking about this is so very important because the last illusion to be overcome is death. That's what we just read, and that's it. There's nothing else. That it's a belief in death. It's a belief, and that's why it's one of the obstacles to peace is our attraction to death. We think that it's something special, and something that we want to see all over the place, and we do see it all over the place, in everything we see. So, and like today's lesson, I'm sure you probably did today's lesson already, um, which is all about there's not two worlds. There's not a world where death exists and love exists. There's not a world where fear exists and love exists. The only real world is the world where love exists, and death and fear, loss, guilt, all those things, they're they're in a world that in the world that we generally inhabit, but they're not the real world. So moving into the real world where we get rid of these myths, this is what he's talking about. This is why self-esteem and in ego terms must be delusional. Believing that I'm a self must be delusional. The ego is equally unaware of spirit. It doesn't perceive itself as being rejected by something. It does perceive itself as being rejected by something greater than itself. The creations of God did not create myths, although creative effort can be turned to mythology. Okay, that's what we've done. This is what this is. This is a mythical world. This is a mythical life that we're living here. We've turned the creative effort of God into this mythical life. But it can do so, however, under only one condition. What it makes is then no longer creative. What does that mean? That means that it's dead. Okay, what we made is no longer creative. It's dead. There's no motion or movement that comes from it. It once, excuse me, once the script was written, it is set in stone. You can no longer create or make any more stories. We can't, what does he say? Our ability to create destructively has been, taken away from us or something. We can't do it. And thank God for that, because then we know that, now stop a minute and think about this. Then I know that everything I ever imagined was written in the script. So if I imagine getting a new puppy, that's written in the script, my imagination of a new puppy. If I imagine, killing somebody, that's written in the script, my imagination of killing somebody. It's all there. I cannot make any thought. They're all there already. And the ego really is just a thought system that circulates all these thoughts that we made up at the time of the tiny mad idea. It rearranges them, puts some here, puts some there, and basically It's just a rearrangement of the story. So, and it's all a myth. It's all a story. It's all mythology. And it cannot grow. It cannot change. In the story, I die on a certain day. I will die on that day. That's the way the story is written. You can't change it. But we're not it, and we're not a part of it. It has nothing to do with us. Myths are entirely perceptual and so ambiguous in form and characteristically good and evil in nature that even the most benevolent of them is not without fearful connotations. Not even the most beautiful thing, the thing that is the most peaceful, loving, blessing thing, newborn baby, flowers in the field, none of them can I think of without having a fear thought. Because fear thoughts go along with this myth. So they're characteristically good and evil. So right then you see, I can't live in two worlds. I can't live in a world where everything is good when I'm over here looking at evil. It's not possible. Well, am I going to choose love or fear? Well, if I choose even a little bit of fear, I'm going to be living in that that mythological world. Not in the real world, nothing but love exists. So all these fearful thoughts are not necessary or even possible. This is like really heavy stuff here in chapter 4 already. I don't know what people are talking about when they say the first 5 chapters are, hard to read and they don't make sense. Yeah, if you don't want them to, they don't. But if you do, you're going to see right there. This world we live in is a joke. It's all a bunch of stories, and they're all based on the concept of good and evil. And the evil wins because when the good wins, evil still won out. Even the movies where the good wins, you're still crying because of things that didn't happen or things that did happen. There's not a perfect dream in this mythological existence. I'm going to start using that now. This is a myth. It's entirely perceptual. What does today's lesson say? Anybody have any comments? Put your hand up. If you put your hand up and I didn't see it, my bad. Let me let me find. Um, oh no, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, there we go. Rafi has his hand up. Go ahead.
Extremely well said, Lynn. Really, extremely well said. And I'm reminded, just going back to what Jesus was saying about the body. Lester gave us the same lessons. He used to say that when he transcended in 1952, he at the time considered leaving his body because he realized it wasn't what it was and he didn't need it anymore then, but he didn't bother. He would go sit under a tree in an orchard, and while the body was sitting there, he would travel the universe. And then he realized, like Jesus said, you could create another body anytime you want. And he also said the same thing. You could create a body, you could create a dozen bodies and put them anywhere because it's all part of the illusion. And it had nothing, there's no reality. And he also used to say the body is like a carcass, like a car case. Like when you get in your car, you're not the car, but you're using the car as a tool. Well, you're not the body, but he used the body as a. He realized after about 10 years of sitting there in bliss that he could communicate this lesson to others. So he used the body as a communication device. Everything here is serving us, so the body can be used as that tool. And Jesus did the same thing. They killed his body, they threw it in a tomb, and he went and made another one because she had other things that he had more things to communicate with. The lessons are over and over and over and over again. And people think, well, they have a choice. When I was a kid, somewhere along the line, we thought the nuns had a choice in whether to hit us or not. They didn't have a choice. They were programmed to do that. You think the person that you meet and fall in love with, that was your choice. That wasn't your choice. That was pre-programmed. The script is written. You're going to meet this person, you're going to fall in love, you're going to live with them for 40 years or whatever it is, or you're going to live with them for a month and a half and get divorced or whatever it is. That's all part of the lessons that we're here to learn. And none of it's real. None of it's real. It's myth. It's illusion. It's projected thought images. It's a mirage. It's here to teach us. It's a tool. And if we pay attention, we can use it effectively. The dream never really was. But the dream is perfect because it can teach us what. And who put the dream there? I did. I have the kind of power that I can put an entire universe out there and use it for my benefit, and it isn't even real. And all of a sudden, there's the nothingness, there's the quiet. It just hit me like, there's the quiet, and the quiet is the reality.
Thank you so much, Rafi. That is so perfect, so beautiful. Iris, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Rafi. That makes perfect sense. I was just going to say really quickly that I used to wonder why, like Buddha, when he's meditating, I was wondering, like, how did he sit there for ages and not have his legs hurt, you know? And now that makes sense because it's like he wasn't really in his body. His body was just there. And it makes perfect sense now. Like exactly what Rafi was saying about Lester, that he was just sitting there. Like his body was just there, but he was traveling, you know? And so it made perfect sense to me. It's pretty amazing. And the second point that Lynn said, like, that was perfect. That just really, really makes sense because it's like, remember last week we said that everything is happening in the mind. Like it really is. Like the whole everything is happening in the mind, like everything. Like, you know, and Lynn mentioned something like it's all perceptual, like a myth, like exactly what this paragraph was saying. Like it's true. Like and it's 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 amazing. And then Rafi reminded us that like now I can't remember, but I like about the perceptual side. Uh it's really important to remember that. Like as in I mean it's just there is another way of looking at this. It's always like that. Or like, let me recognize my problems have been solved, you know, like in those lessons that I'm always doing over and over again, like the same ones. And yeah, that point about like communication, like once we are aware of it, then we know like it's not a bad thing or something, you know, like it's not bad, quote, bad and good is made up concept. And it's just that we know, okay, we're just communicating with the Christ. Like it's there's some communication happening, and everything is always communicating. And and one last thing, like it says here in the paragraph, spirit in its knowledge is unaware of the ego. It does not attack. So this is important to remember because for me at least, like, and it's like the looking with non-judgment, like, you know, when the ego mind is going bananas, which it does, like to look at it and just observe and look at it with non-judgment and just, like Doug would say, laugh. But at that time, I'm not able to laugh, but at least I can look at it with non-judgment. At least I can do that much. So it really does make sense. It really makes a lot of sense. And I just feel, I must say, I just feel grateful. And I'm really grateful. And like, it just makes sense. And I'll hand back to Lynn.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It just makes sense. And it's really interesting that you brought that spirit in its knowledge is unaware of the ego. Right before that, it says the ego's ceaseless attempts to gain the spirit's acknowledgement and thus establish its own existence are useless. This is what we are always, oh God, help me do this. So, oh, we think we're talking to, we think we're talking to God. In reality, our ego is trying to gain some power and get some kind of ability. So and prove that it's real. Because yeah, if I get a miracle, I get, whatever, my body's healed, or, I pray for a new car and it appears in my driveway, and, whatever, that's ego's just desire to get God's attention, to say, hey, show me that I'm special. And spirit doesn't even see it. It can't be special. It is like that little guy Plankton in SpongeBob. He is so tiny he can't be seen. But of course you can see him on the cartoon if you watch SpongeBob. Anyway, I have grandchildren. Don't judge me. So but spirit doesn't attack it because it doesn't even know it's there. And the ego doesn't understand spirit's there because the ego is reaching out to something that it thinks is even, more powerful or benevolent or whatever than God. Um, so, it's and when it doesn't get the new car in the driveway, then, it says, well, then to heck with you. You're not a very good God. Let me find another one and another one and another one. So, and we create these myths, we create these stories. So, anyway, I love this. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to share?
Yeah, I know.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I thought what Iris shared was wonderful. Thank you, Iris. That was wonderful. And yeah, it's exactly as it says. Ego feels it's being rejected by something greater than itself. So I put in the chat, ego wants to be recognized and approved. It knows it's being ignored by something greater. And yeah, I love your talk about perception. And of course, the course says perception is an interpretation, and the interpretation depends on who your teacher is. So the ego always says, well, it's something different, and and spirit knows that there's nothing outside of you, that you are one with all. That's it.
Thank you, Dove. Yeah, I just wanted to take us back to today's lesson, which, I mean, this just goes so perfectly with today's lesson, right? It's impossible to see two worlds. He says perception is consistent. What you see reflects your thinking, and your thinking but reflects your choice of what you want to see. Your values are determiners of this. For what you value, you must want to see, believing what you see is really there. No one can see a world his mind has not accorded value, and no one can fail to look upon what he believes he wants. And then who can really love and hate at once? And if you can do that, then you don't want reality. Anyway, I see Rafi has his hand up. Please go ahead, Rafi.
Yeah, in regard to what Dove just related to about the ego looking to the divine for acknowledgement, but it has no concept of what the infinite divinity is that we really are. So it's looking for it in this dream, and that's why a teacher that I used to have, I had once used to say, wanting approval is the biggest check you'll ever write. Because that's the constant ego saying, you please, you gotta like me, like me, like me. Otherwise, what's gonna happen to me? I'm gonna die. Oh my God, oh my God. And if you don't like me, I'll kill you. And there's the two sides of the ego. And it was in that paragraph that you had up on the screen a little while ago, it mentions that it uses different synonyms, but it's the same thing. There's and it's caught up in this illusionary world that it believes that it's looking for the truth and it's looking for it where it ain't because it can't possibly know what the is, what the truth is. So it's amazing, but it all thoughts come from the fear of lack of limitation, separation. And all of them lead to that same fear. Oh my God, if you don't like me, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to die. God damn it, why don't you like me? I'll kill you, you son of a bitch. And that's the world it lives in. Do we want to live in that world? Of course not. But with people are so caught up in those thoughts, they believe it's real. They also believe that they have a choice. They don't have a choice. The script is written. The script is written for our benefit, in our best interest, but it doesn't know that. You think you had a choice coming here today to do this thing? It was written. I think I had a choice that I came to the computer and logged on 5 minutes before. No, it was already written. It's already done. And I'm here because it's in my best interest. And that divine presence has orchestrated every moment of everything in this entire universal dream beneficially. We just don't see it that way. If we don't see it that way, then we're doomed to follow the ego precepts, which is all constant suffer, 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 suffer. Victim, 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 victim. Thank you.
Exactly. I mean, it's so beautiful. The script is written, this is something I figured out when I was like 17 years old, sitting in my room tripping on acid, looking at, but funny enough, looking at the looking at rocks, and I realized that what it started from the very beginning, which I didn't know about the tiny mad idea. I didn't know, but I did know about the creation theory, etc. I think this was even before the Big Bang was thought of, but I did know that once that started, everything, it was like rocks rolling downhill. They're just gonna go and go and go and go. And what I'm doing now is a direct result of what happened, billions of years ago when, the planet was formed and the amoeba came to life or whatever. It was all in the scheme. And when I realized that there was nothing to fear. And I've used that my whole life ever since then. That until I read the script as written in A Course in Miracles, I never heard that from anybody else. So as soon as I read it in the Course in Miracles, I'm like, yeah, I've known that my whole freaking life. And it's absolutely true. However it comes to you that all these things that are happening, do I think I have anything to do? I have the weight of eternity on me. Everything that's happened before has just pushed me forward to be where I am right now. I have no choice. It's like being caught in a mudslide. You're just going and you have no choice. That's where we are. But, I don't see it as anything to be afraid of. I just see it as, well, there's, in fact, it's the reason there's no reason to fear is because it's all going to happen. It all started from the beginning and will continue until it's over. And at that time, I just thought it was going to go on till the end of the universe or whatever. Now I recognize that it goes when the universe disappears in my mind. So yeah, go ahead, Dove.
Yes, it's another way of saying that it's all happening perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We
Go ahead,
do
Bob.
have power, we do have the power of decision to decide, to discriminate whether you're going to follow the truth or you're going to keep following this ego mind thing around and keep banging into walls the rest of the whatever your time is in this illusion, not realizing that you're here to serve and that it's serving you perfectly.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because what is the purpose? That's what you have to ask of everything. What is the purpose? And obviously, the purpose is not so that, I'm caught in a mudslide and, have no control. The purpose is to recognize that there is no mudslide. There is no body, there is no mudslide. None of this has actually happened. It's a myth. I love that Jesus uses that term. Entirely perceptual, ambiguous, and good and evil in nature. And the most benevolent of them all is not without fearful connotations. I love that. Let's see. Do we have time to read another paragraph? Yeah, let's read the next paragraph. Who would like to read paragraph 9? Yes, please, Doug.
Okay. Myths and magic, M&Ms, are closely associated. Since myths are usually related to ego origins and magic to the powers the ego ascribes to itself. You might say they're kissing cousins. Mythological systems generally include some account of the creation. Oh, yeah, I know how it all started. Yeah, I'm right. It was obvious how it all started. And associate this with its particular form of magic. Yep, I know, therefore I am. The so-called battle for survival is only the ego's struggle to preserve itself. That's what Jesus is saying. Well, of course I want to preserve myself. You think I'm stupid? And its interpretation of its own beginning. That's true. I know how it all started. This beginning is usually associated with physical birth. It goes back beyond that too. I know, because it's hard to maintain that the ego exists before that point in time. Well, yeah, I got a big family. Yeah. The more religiously ego-oriented may believe that the soul existed before and will continue to exist after a temporary lapse into ego life. Yep. Let's see, the more religiously, yeah. You just keep coming back. That's right. You just keep coming back. That's right. That's because I'm holy. I just keep coming back. And I will continue to exist even after a temporary lapse into ego life. Some even believe that the soul will be punished for this lapse. However, salvation does not apply to spirit. Yeah, which is not in danger. So all of the stuff I'm thinking about has nothing to do with the reality of spirit. It has to do with the reality of me. Moi. Yeah, I exist. And I know how I exist. Yeah. Is that the end of the paragraph?
That's it. And let's see. Did you have some even believe?
Yeah. Well, however, salvation does not apply to spirit, which is not in danger and does not need to be. So Yeah, I want you to know when I'm reading this, I just saw an ad. It was like a 3-minute ad for Pee Wee Herman. I think they're going to put the story of Pee Wee Herman on. I think it's on HBO. Uh, I don't think it was on CNN, but I think it's on HBO. And it was so good because we all remember Pee Wee Herman, and and he was so dominant back in the 70s and 80s, or whatever it was, and he said, and I had this uh, extra this ulterior ego, and I kept that ego to be me, and I was in charge of me, and and that ego was was who people saw me as, and then all of a sudden his mask was taken off, and he says, and then people saw me other than my ego. I can't explain it the way he does, but if you saw the ad, it's so good because they show him as a young Pee Wee Herman uh, doing his thing, which everybody knows his thing, and then it shows him the way he is now, and he doesn't like the way he is now, but he's still smiling.
That's funny. We love Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. He's a big icon in our family, and he was actually a very good actor. Uh,
Yes,
he
was yes.
played in some movies and stuff. Not Pee Wee Herman, but what a great guy. We love Paul Rubens for sure. Rafi, I'm gonna have to watch that. I'll look for that. Rafi, please go ahead.
I actually knew Paul for a short time. Very dedicated to his work, very hardworking guy. I just wanted to go over this part where it says the more religiously ego-oriented may believe the soul existed before. This is that whole concept of yes, I came into this world, and then I with original sin, and I was baptized, so the original sin went away. What? Um, then there's the part about um, if I die, I may go to heaven, or I may go to hell, or there's another place. I may go to purgatory. What? Where are all of these places? In our imagination. In our imagination. Okay, I mean it's just it's not. But they make up all of this stuff, but all it does is perpetuate an ego premise that we're separate individuals.
Right.
Nothing could be further from the truth. It's astounding, and people hang on to that stuff like, boy, it's really my. When I was a little kid, then they told us about purgatory. Purgatory, yeah, you're gonna go there and you can burn for several thousand years, but then you're gonna be okay, and then you'll be allowed to go to heaven. But if you go to hell, you'll never get out. You're gonna who? What? Wait a minute. Who decides all of this? Where did I? But that's the crap that we were told and that we lived with until eventually wake up, little Susie, wake up.
Yep.
Uh, Yeah, and you're right. I mean, honestly, that is one thing. As much as I might be happy about the new pope and still, love the church, they still believe in hell, and that is eventually someone's going to come to the understanding that that's not consistent with a loving God. But right now they still believe in hell and purgatory. I think limbo went away. I heard that limbo went away, so no more babies, no more unborn babies
I
waiting.
forgot about limbo, right? There's another one.
I used to pray for those babies in limbo I'd say a rosary for the souls in limbo every day. And purgatory. I was a big rosary girl, so yeah. Iris, please go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like yeah, I was kind of thinking that it's like just very superstitious, and like this type of beliefs, these are the types of beliefs I was brought up with, like this type of stuff, yeah. That like in my Christian upbringing, it would be like in the school, it would be like I'm a sinner, like really drilled into me, I'm a sinner. And then at home in the Hindu upbringing, it's like really superstitious. It's like, oh, don't do that. You're going to be like, you're going to be, what's the word? Like you'll have like the wrath of God, coming onto you, even for things like if the shoe was left upside down, like there would be the wrath of God, like coming down on me, like this type of ideas. And really, like they're just, this is like where all this religious ideas and all this fear comes from. And it's really, really quite incredible. But anyway, like I just wanted to read this one last line, which says, however, salvation does not apply to spirit, which is not in danger and does not need to be salvaged. I mean, how simple is that? Like, and I think every person knows this. Like anyone that is going to read this is going to just look at this and just be like, of course, like anyone is going to just look at this and just be like, how simple is that? It doesn't matter if my shoe is upside down, or like stuff like that. So I'll just hand back to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Iris, and thank you everyone who's joined with us here today. I do appreciate and this is good. This is fun, and I love you all so much. We'll see you tomorrow at John Mondays,
At 12 o'clock, yeah.
12 o'clock. I sent out the email so
Thank
everyone
you.
have the link and be able to get in. So let me know if you don't, and I'll resend or whatever. So thank you so much, and I love you all, and see
I
you
just
tomorrow.
want to say, that Pope Leo has a good chance, having come from Chicago and then spending some time in Philadelphia and at Villanova. He has a good chance of having heard of the Course of Miracles.
Oh, I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. That's more than likely very true. And you know, if he has time to think about it, we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Mhm. If he
I
heard
love
of Course of Miracles, he may be the Pope that says there is no hell.
that. Would be very cool. I would love to hear that.
He may be the one that says this world is hell to heaven.
Yep, we can all be hoping that. I'm definitely praying for him and thinking about him because they're already going against him because
Joe's last name from Chicago? Maureen's friend, Joe.
the wolf.
Joe Wolf. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Joe Wolf. Yeah, he did a lot of work with prisons.
Yes, he sure did.
Joe Wolf. Thanks. Yeah.
So, all right,
Yeah.
you go.
You know, he used to teach here.
Oh yeah, I remember when
He
Joe was.
actually brought Maureen here to teach.
Yeah.